Hello, welcome to 22 months of being a dad. This last month included Christmas and New Year's. Christmas was obviously fun with him, a lot more than last year because he got a few toys and he could play with them, like his Legos and things like that, and was smiling and really happy instead of just a little blob. Between Christmas Eve and Christmas, spending time with both my wife's side of the family and my side of the family was good, and then New Year's was pretty low key. So that was basically it. And then continuing to live in the very small house, which has been a challenge in the winter. Just Nicholas trying to be active and can't be active, so that's a problem. But going to the library, little play areas, doing what we can in that regard, and trying to be supportive of each other as a couple through what is a somewhat difficult time. Obviously, tons of people have it worse than us, but it's not ideal, and we would like to be more established in life. And I think within the next year, we'll be in a better spot overall. There's always movement, maybe another kid would come, nothing imminent, but maybe another kid would be coming in the next year or two, and things like that. So no matter how like financially set you are, or you own a home, and there's always something that comes up, right? But overall, Nicholas is doing well. He's learning more words in both English and Portuguese. He definitely understands a lot more than he can speak, but the vocabulary is coming up in both languages. Single words, no sentences, things like that. So that's exciting overall. The terrible twos are definitely on the way there, maybe not quite, but emotional regulation isn't there. He's smart enough to kind of figure out what he wants, but he doesn't realize he can't always get what he wants when he wants it and things like that. So that'll probably continue to get worse, which is not great to think about, but it is reality. So just bracing for that and mentally and emotionally and physically preparing myself, considering just getting him clothed and bathed sometimes is literally a physical battle, like a wrestling match. And he can definitely get himself into trouble. He's starting to not just like climb on a couch, but climb on a couch and then kind of find a way to jump over to something else, which is scary. And he's like walking around on things sometimes that are like 3 feet up in the air if you don't watch him every single second. But luckily, he hasn't got hurt yet. And he has pretty good balance and stuff like that, which is helpful, but he can also get himself into such horrible trouble that maybe he can't get himself out of it. So yeah, definitely keeping a really strong eye on him and trailing him everywhere is essential at this point. But obviously when the warmer weather hits and we can get outside, it's going to be a lot better. For me, the dark winters are definitely really tough. I'm starting to get, a little bit down mood-wise and a little bit strained, I think, in many different ways, just from working a lot, commuting a lot, and trying to deal with the stuff at home, which is obviously my wife's dealing with Nicholas, which makes her stressed, and then she kind of takes it out on me, which is understandable, but is also a little bit difficult to manage through. So just learning to pick my battles in terms of what actually matters to me and not arguing about things that I'm not going to care about, even in like a couple of weeks, let alone, like years from now. I won't even remember. I'm not great at that right now. I'm trying to improve. I think I have improved, but obviously, when I'm kind of mentally, physically, and emotionally tired, I would like a partner who's very flexible and understanding. And when she's maxed out, she's the opposite of that, and I probably am as well. So that's causing tension, but I think that's pretty typical for people who have kids, under the age of 2 or even under the age of probably 5. You're kind of stressed and you're around them all the time, especially if one of the parents is a stay-at-home parent. They're going to be pretty stressed out about like taking care of the little kid all the time, and then that's going to be taken out on the other parent, and like I just said, it creates a negative feedback loop, or whatever you want to call it. That is not the most positive environment in the world, but we're working on improving on that, and some of it's just going to be getting out of this stage in our lives, talking to parents of older kids that might be 10 to 15, or obviously people who have adult children. Most people go through this phase, and so it's either you avoid each other to a large extent to get through it, or you kind of have some conflict and some resolution. So kind of you either have the highs and the lows more frequently than you normally would, like emotionally, or you just sort of avoid each other, which the demands of life make that a reality to a large extent. But some people kind of, they take separate vacations, like they go to sleep at different times and wake up at different times and things like that. I think right now my wife and I are pretty synced on when we go to sleep and wake up. I think when Nicholas was younger, she would go to bed a couple hours earlier than me, and maybe we'd wake up at the same time since she kind of sleeps a lot. Point being is, like, we had a little bit more separation in that, a little bit more division, um, of who was going to do what when and things like that. And I feel like that's kind of fallen off, and that's probably stressed us out a little bit more. But that basically wraps up today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.